Okay, I promised you guys an update on the Charlie Kirk footage and story, and it's coming. We've gotten a lot of information from a lot of different podcasters and stuff, so let's just break it down for you right now. I've got my Sonic mug. Let's go. So, basically, what happened was, as you all know, it is official. He did die. He was shot in, I believe this is the femoral artery, and about right here. And in about 3/10 of a second, he lost about 3 liters of blood, which was horrific to see. And nobody should be killed for their beliefs, and most people will tell you that. 9 out of 10 people will say that nobody needs to be murdered for what they believe in and their views. But there are a few unhinged people out there. It used to be the 1%ers. That's now growing to about the 2 and the 5%. And what's going on is people are falling for the deep state operative. So this guy, the FBI is coming out and saying they've now they had a couple people, detained them, and released it. One was 71-year-old, I think George Shin or something. I can't remember his last name, but he said he did it. It wasn't him. He was lying. Probably just a deranged Democrat or something. Who knows? But they let him go. They had another guy, and they let him go. Well, now they think it's this young college-aged kid. And the day before, there was an X post, Twitter X post, of this transgender guy saying, Charlie Kirk is coming to my college town tomorrow, and I would love to see him evaporated. And let me just tell you that something big is about to happen. So this is the same thing as the Uvalde, Texas, where you had 18-year-old Salvador Ramos go into that Cobb Elementary School, and the door was propped open for him by some teacher's aide or something. This is all set up. It's all false flag to get the guns out of our hands, 100%. And there's no discrepancy. Salvador Ramos did the same thing. He was starting to undergo the transgender thing, and he had a therapist. I've been telling you guys this is how it's happening. It's the therapists that are brainwashing these young, and it's always a young person who they're convincing to go transgender. You never see it be a 50 or a 60-year-old person all of a sudden. I guess you saw it with Bruce Jenner, but years ago. But all of a sudden with these shootings, it's these transgendered young, mostly male to female. Sometimes it's a female to male. In the case of Audrey Hale in Nashville, Tennessee, a year and a half ago, I believe. But it's a covert program, psychological operation called MK Ultra, and they're brainwashing these people to do this, and they're also giving them psychotropic drugs. Now, the FBI they haven't released a name, they aren't releasing video, but they did release still shots of this guy, young guy, wearing a hat and dark clothing. And they're basically leading us to believe that he's the one who was up on the roof, because there's video of somebody on the roof, shooting Charlie Kirk from 200 yards away. So you mean to tell me that this transgendered loon shot somebody that accurately in the femoral artery? That's a kill shot. That's somebody who's trained. You know, I'm in the Army Reserves. I used to be active Army. I've trained several different times on an M4 rifle up to meters at 300 meters. And I'm not as accurate as what this shot was. Now, there was only one shot fired on the video, but now the gun has been dropped off. It's an older rifle in the woods with a towel wrapped around it. I think it was a red towel maybe. And there were some bullets left in the chamber, and one was spent. And they found it in the casing, in the barrel, I suppose, or maybe around it. And there were these inscriptions of anti-fascist and transgenderism inscriptions on the bullets. So it reminds me of the Luigi Mangione murder of Brian, whatever his last name was, of the United Healthcare CEO earlier this year. And you just don't see these kind of things done by some random transgendered guy who would love to see Charlie Kirk evaporated. He's not going to go get bullets with inscriptions on it. You know, if he's making a post saying, hey, Charlie Kirk is coming to my college town, that alludes to the fact that he just found out about it on that X post. So he's a patsy, in other words. And this is happening a lot. I talked to you about Thomas Matthew Crooks of the Butler Trump shooting. Here we see the name Butler coming up again. I keep talking about this. One of the transgendered guys. in, I believe it was Iowa, Dylan Butler. This isn't coincidence. It's a slap in all of our faces because we're ignorant to a lot of this stuff, and we need channels like this to bring all this to awareness of what the deep state is doing to us, and nobody is stopping it. You know, the only way we can stop it is by creating awareness, talking about it, figuring out what's really going on behind the scenes, and then maybe we can figure it out and put an end to this. But taking guns out of our hands is not the answer, because when you take guns out of our hands, it starts with groups like this, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden we're defenseless whenever the military or the federal government decides, oh, wait a minute, we're going to detain you because you did something wrong. We're going to take you to this FEMA concentration camp. You know, Jesse Ventura showed us that on his show Conspiracy Theory back in 2000 when black coffins were lined up. We knew all this stuff. Phil Schneider talked about it in 1996, said that this was all part of the reptilian, yes, the reptilian aliens, and you're seeing a lot more about aliens coming out now. It's all over the news, alien this, alien that. They're prepping us, guys. Something big is going to happen soon. They've got this interstellar object out there that they're saying is now morphing and changing shape, and it's supposed to be coming here in November, is what they're saying. There's so much going on right now. We're just getting prepped, and why are we at these people's mercy? You know, if we're supposed to be in control of our own lives, then it's time to start doing something about this, at least bringing awareness to what's really going on. You know, I've now got images that Charlie Kirk is a Freemason, or was a Freemason. You know, I loved Charlie Kirk and the message he was putting out there. Very conservative man, you know, and the liberals hated him for his views. But how can this guy be talking good things about Jesus Christ, and all of a sudden there are these pictures now surfacing of him throwing up 666 figures with his hands, doing secret handshakes with President Trump? You tell me. Even at the event yesterday where he had 3 piles of hats stacked up in sets of 3. These are all Freemason tactics. And then the shooter, it's the same thing as the Trump shooter, where you've got the guy standing behind him adjusting his hat, possibly as a signal to shoot, and then you got another guy playing with his arms like this, trying to send weird signals. We saw the same thing at the Donald Trump shooting in Butler, where for the very first time, Trump asked Secret Service to show up when he had never done that in any of his other rallies, and then they have a big goof like that, and they with Butler police, allow Thomas Matthew Crooks to climb up the stairs and get on the roof of the AGR building and shoot at him. From a distance that was very similar to what we saw yesterday with Charlie Kirk, where the guy went up the stairwell on this building and did the business, took a shot. Was it really this transgendered guy, or was it a deep state operative? The airport wasn't shut down right away after this shot. You know, you would think that's standard protocol. You shut down an airport when there's a major shooting like this in your town, your city. You go to the next city, you shut down the airport so whoever it is can't escape. They're trapped in that area. That airport was not shut down for at least an hour. So that tells me it's a deep state operative using the transgendered guy as a patsy with these encrypted bullets, and he flew out of Dodge, literally flew out of there on an airplane and went probably back to D.C. or wherever he's from. We saw the same thing happen in the Trump shooting. Now, the whole Trump shooting, I think, was probably a put on and fake now, because that where Trump got shot on the ear, I don't even think there's a scar there anymore. I don't know. You would think he would want to prove that, but who knows? So there's a lot going on right now. Don't be fooled by what's going on. You know, we have got to identify all this stuff. It's not going to stop until they get the guns out of your hands. So we can't let that happen. We are entitled under the amendments to, you know, to own our guns and stuff like that. We can't let them take the guns out of our hands. Phil Schneider talked about it. He said it was the reptilian New World Order agenda, and you hear Bill Gates coming out and saying the same thing. He keeps talking about the New World Order now too. And last week we saw Bill Gates sitting right beside Donald Trump in a meeting. What is Donald Trump doing sitting, entertaining Bill Gates, dude? Right after he won the election, Bill Gates visited him at Mar-a-Lago. I keep telling you guys, Trump is a Scottish Rite Mason. And now when you see these pictures of Charlie Kirk throwing up these hand signs and symbols, now it's like, wait a minute, is there anybody we can trust anymore? Is there anybody that's good? Because it seems like everybody's sold their soul out for something. And Charlie Kirk would be the last person in the world you would think would have sold his soul out. You know, I used to say the same thing about Alex Jones. I still think Alex Jones is the late CBS Evening News host Bill Hicks. Alex Jones had the same producer as Joe Rogan. That producer slipped up and called him Bill one time. There's no birth certificate for Alex Jones. But it's hard for me to prove this one because Alex Jones's dad did die, last week or the week before, and his last name was Jones, but I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying it. I just think that he's a former CIA operative myself, but regardless, it's like there's nobody we can trust anymore, and we're just left to spectate and talk about things and watch it all unfold because nobody can seem to get a jump on any of this stuff. So, with that said, stay tuned. We're going to have more updates on this for you. I'm going to put the pictures out here that I'm talking about at the end of this video so you can see them. So this was the timeline of September 11th, and we all know that that was a big lie for us too, as we reflect on that day. And we hearken to the Bible verse Ephesians 6:12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And we're seeing that with every single event that keeps going on. Case in point, the Ukrainian woman that died on the train, Irina, that was a fake one too, and people aren't realizing that. This woman has died multiple times. She's a crisis actor. We have seen this before. It's a divide and conquer technique they're employing against us. Irina Shibuk says she was killed May 29, 2024, just 3 days before her 26th birthday, yet it's the same woman that died in the train in North Carolina. Give me a break, guys. And now let's turn back to Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA. And you can see him here with his family and his 2 young kids. I think the daughter's 3 years old now, with his beautiful wife. And it's sad that they had to witness this because it's really, really weird, the events that are unfolding, this whole tragedy. Nobody wanted to see this at all, and yet here we are. So he was at his Prove Me Wrong event in Orem, Utah, as you guys know, and these are some of the pictures of it. There's a plainclothes cop who had drawn his weapon after the fact. I'm sure he didn't know anything of what was really going on. Many of these people didn't. Nobody knew. All they heard was a bullet going off. But let's get on with the Freemason motto, order out of chaos, ordo ab chao. And the government creates mass chaos so they can enforce martial law and take the guns out of your hands. So here are some of the pictures I was talking about with Charlie Kirk holding up the sixes. And you don't do that unless you're a Freemason or in the club. Here's a special handshake with President Trump. I'm going to zoom in here on this next picture, and you can see it a little more closely. It's an unusual handshake with one hand over the top of the other. And here he is with that symbol again, the diamond symbol, and Candace Owens, of all people, is doing it too. You would never think these people would be doing these things. Are these real pictures? Well, I would say they probably are. Here you see the 3 hats stacked up in groups of 3. 33 is a huge Freemasonic number, as we all know, and he's holding the fingers out. And then you see the CGI goof right here of the ring. It's a signet ring that he wears. I don't know what's on it, and it shifts to the pinky finger. So here you see the ring is on the 3rd finger, and then the CGI fail. It goes, and it just looks like a wedding band. So what were they hiding from us? You know, what were they faking? If it was a real shot. And here's a post from him 11 years ago saying, "You are watching a movie." It also says, "Did I just get shot by an AR-15? Sure feels like it." And what's that? That looks like a CGI goof right there on his shirt that says freedom. And then you've got the wire or whatever it is coming up here, and people say, well, he was using a microphone. Yeah, but the microphone was in his hand. So what's this? I mean, they're saying he was wearing a chest plate maybe. This shot went over the chest plate, one shot right there. Perfectly aimed. And then all of a sudden the ring is on the 4th finger, the pinky finger. Charlie Kirk, in 2016, you can tell a lot about a person by how they react when someone dies. There's the person up on the roof. There's the gun, this older style rifle. And again, we've talked about the bullets. Here is the transgendered account, Omar something. The profile picture's now changed. They've changed some things about this. It says, Charlie Kirk is coming to my college tomorrow. I really hope someone evaporates him, literally. Let's just say something big will happen tomorrow. And then this is the guy that they've got on video, who to me looks like he's in his 30s. He doesn't look like that other guy, but maybe it wasn't him, but people were looking into it. Again, you've got the inscriptions on the bullets, which is like Luigi Mangioni's murder of that Brian guy, the United Healthcare CEO. And then here at Provo Regional Airport's just 5 miles from Utah Valley University. And the takeoff at UTC Universal Time was 1912, and it illegally turns off the radar at 1944. This is the guy that claimed he was the shooter, George Shin, I think, 71 years old. They haul him away and then find out he didn't do it. And this is a guy in the white hat who's giving some kind of a signal, it looks like, for the shooter to go ahead and do it. We saw this at the Trump rally in Butler, and this guy's doing the weird arm symbols too, or signals, I should say, signaling that, okay, time for the shot. And then you get the girl asking the mass shooting question. So it's all scripted, it's all choreographed, and it's so easy to see.